think we got the whole team here today, except for Dana. Dana's doing a show tonight. She's our in-house performer and musician. So we got the whole team here otherwise, but let's kind of get started. So what we can expect this evening is this is our sort of general sort of update type of event. We are going to hear first from Alex, who's going to talk about the market and kind of market conditions, what we're seeing out there in Calgary. And then we're going to talk to Ryan Bond in regards to mortgages and interest rates and financing and all of the things that we need to know right now if we are in the market or getting into the market. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some opportunities, general strategies and opportunities. And then we're going to wrap it up with Una talking about the rental market. So should be a good evening. As always, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll either answer them as we go or at the end. And it just is a good way for us to kind of keep track of the things you want to talk about further. And at the end, we can also do a bit of a Q&A too, if there's certain things you guys want to talk about in specifics at the end. So we will get started. If you are new here, is there anyone here new here that hasn't been to one of our events before? I actually should ask that more often. Thanks, Maria. If there isn't anyone new here, welcome. And we are Phipps Real Estate Group. We are a team of real estate investors and investor-focused realtors and property managers here in Calgary. And we do these events every month, or try to do them every month, and bring you some value and some food for thought and things to think about in terms of the Calgary market. Oh, awesome, Norma. Well, welcome. First time as well. Awesome, Trent. And so you can expect these from us every month, and we change the topics. We try to bring in other speakers. Our next event, I'll announce it towards the end of the meeting, but we have a really exciting guest speaker for our next event that we've been trying to get speak for the whole year. So we'll talk about that at the end of the session and maybe send the link as well. Awesome, Jen. Okay, so let's get started here. If you are not following us here or not as a part of our group, I just want to put up our Facebook group, Calgary Real Estate Investing. There is a couple thousand people in there now with a common interest of real estate investing. Please post comments in there or questions if you're looking for a recommendation for someone or you have questions about Calgary in general. Please post them in there and someone from our team will be happy to assist you. Please know that we are realtors. We don't charge for these events. We want them to be free and accessible to everyone, but we obviously do make a living off of sales in the Calgary marketplace. And if you are looking for our services or we can help in any way, please let us know. And our first step is always just to set a consultation meeting with you to learn about you and your goals, and then come up with a strategy or next steps moving forward from there. Our goal is to build relationships with you guys. We are not a transactional based group. We really are relationship based. So if we can ever help with that at all, or you're looking into the Calgary market, please schedule a time with us, and we'd love to get to know you and your goals. And with that, we will get started. So first and foremost, we're going to have Alex speak about the market and what you need to know right now. Alexandra Sell is a realtor on our team here. She is an investor herself, self-manages all of her properties as well and is an excellent investor-focused realtor. So thanks for being here today, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
All righty, I will put up your first slide here. Okay, take it away, Alex.
Actually, can you go to the other slide first, Natasha?
Okay, yeah.
The numbers. Thank you so much. Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Alex. Welcome to October. We're having just the most gorgeous fall in Calgary. Leaves are falling. Sun is shining. House prices are falling too. Just kidding. Ever so slightly. As you can see from my numbers, the benchmark price for September sits at 527,400. As a comparison, that number back in August was 531,800. So not a big drop at all. Despite recent pullbacks in sales, we had a really strong level of sales earlier in the year. And so year-to-date sales remain 15% higher than last year. The market's slowing down. That's true. A lot of it is seasonal. We're leaning towards more balanced territory in a detached segment. And that urgency that we saw a little bit earlier on is not here. But that doesn't mean that the demand is gone. If you just look at the active listings, 4,453, that's not a lot for the city as big as Calgary. What that also means that the demand is shifting a little bit towards more affordable options. So lower price points such as semi-detached, row townhouse, the townhouses segments, they are very tight right now. In fact, sales are up. So I would say it's still sellers market in that segment. And as you can see, currently the average days on market is 39 days. Our prediction is that things will most likely remain slower until springtime, but who knows, with at least one more interest rate hikes, which I'm sure Ryan's gonna discuss in greater detail. I do have amazing piece of news. Natasha, if you can flip to the other slide next. This is really exciting. Interprovincial migration. So in the second quarter of 2022, net migration to Alberta was 34,883 people. So compared to 1,049, same time of the year before, so 2021, by far the largest net migration in our history. So we're all very excited about that. Why people are moving here? We always get this from everywhere. But first things, employment, affordable housing. We are very, very attractive option for newcomers. To this point, I don't know if you guys know Zillow. It's a online real estate marketplace. It's not super popular here in Calgary, but it is in the East. Anyways, Zillow did a recent poll, and it was regarding moving to Alberta from other provinces, most notably BC and Ontario, because that's where we see the biggest shift. So interestingly, 89% of those who moved to Alberta had no regrets, zero, none.
Wow.
The winter didn't scare them at all. and they also kind of dive in deeper, and they said people moving here, they quoted not just the affordability factor, because yes, it's true, we are cheaper, right, than Ontario or other provinces, but they also quoted lifestyle reasons. So things like, you know, proximity to the mountains, excellent schools, and higher wages was a big factor, shorter commutes, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really interesting, and hopefully that migration is going to continue. And who knows, like maybe the people who moved here will tell all the friends back in Ontario, hey, we survived the winter, it's not so bad. And then come spring, more people will move. Who knows, right? I don't have a slide for this, but this is another piece of news, and that is great news, actually. Calgary City Council approves the missing middle zoning. I don't know if you guys know what the missing middle is, but essentially it's zoning rules that allows for more development, otherwise known as the missing middle. And so that refers to medium density developments like duplexes, townhouses, row houses, even low-rise apartments, which we don't have a lot. But it's not everywhere in Calgary. It's in very specific inner city established communities. So this new zoning, it's called HGO, which stands for Housing Grade Oriented. And this zoning basically allows development in the inner city neighborhoods. There's a couple of things that they're looking at, for instance, like is it close to LRT stations or away from main streets or any kind of transit infrastructure. But more importantly, what's driving this is a lot of these established neighborhoods are currently zoned R1, which allows for single family homes. And they have seen over the years population decline. And so the missing middle kind of introduces higher density homes, of course, more affordable options, but also they bring different demographics to these communities. So you're now mixing seniors with families and kids, and all those unused pools and libraries and playgrounds are getting used again. So I personally think it's great. They're doing this all over the states. California is really known for this type of zoning. we don't know exactly how this is going to work because it's like fresh off the press. It was just announced last week, and property owners will still need to bring their application to the city council. They're still going to need to apply for their rezoning, and it's going to be approved on a case-by-case basis. But I think we're going to see a lot more gentrification in those inner city communities, which is great. So we will keep you posted on how that plays out. And that's it for me, Natasha.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So many things. I was just kind of thinking back to earlier in the year when we were speaking in the spring, and it's always nice to kind of see these things, forming in front of our eyes that we were kind of hopeful would occur through the year. I've talked a lot about how Calgary is such a low density city over the years, and how people, when prices go up and we're now in this kind of boom time, people are now going to be squeezing the more affordable options, and that only starts kind of making the interest from a development standpoint in terms of more density for rentals and for purchases. So as prices go up and up, that's going to become more and more important for Calgary. I know there's some people not super happy about the kind of densification, but it has to happen. It's just a matter of time. We cannot just, sprawl out forever. We have to start building up more and more. So yeah, very excited to see what happens with that. If you're wanting to get into development or any sort of land assemblies or anything like that, staying very much on top of these changes with the city is highly recommended. And I know there's going to be some great opportunities that come out of that. The Alberta is calling trend is working. So this interprovincial migration, I was in Ontario last weekend for a conference, and almost every one of my kind of clients and colleagues and people that I spoke to at this conference that live in Ontario mentioned how well our government is doing in advertising in Alberta. Love it or hate it, or the style or whatever, that's, up to you, but it is definitely getting people talking and people are noticing it. So it's come up time and time again now in chatting with tenants and buyers, and people are reassessing things, even things like less taxation, no land transfer taxes. Let's just make your money go a little bit further as well. Lower barrier to entry for people. So that's, really exciting times for Calgary. The dip in prices as well. We even talked about that earlier this year, that by winter we expected to see balanced condition market. So that's not all that surprising. It's, very much a seasonal city here. And I think compared to what the rest of the country is doing, we're very well insulated from any sort of major price corrections that we're seeing elsewhere, considering we were at a different sort of starting point than Vancouver and Toronto over the last few years. So that's what I would expect to continue as well. But there could be some good buying opportunities this winter. November, December, a great time for investors to be shopping. So with that, let's get Ryan up here to kind of give us the details on everything we need to know in the financing world. Ryan, where are you? I will pin you. Ryan, can you speak?
Hey.
Oh, there you are.
I was just looking at that picture thinking I need to update that. I have a lot more grays than that.
I had to Google that photo. I couldn't find your you had sent me a photo other time, so I apologize if you had sent me. I'm going to pin you because you're moving around on me. Okay, there you are, pinned. Okay, so Ryan Bond, everyone, is our trusted mortgage broker partner at Phipps Real Estate Group. Ryan and I have worked together on many files since 2015, and I absolutely trust his insight and know-how when it comes to not just the mortgage world, but real estate investors in the mortgage world, and how can we keep our wits about us, as well as be strategic and plan for the future and be working towards those goals. So thank you for being here today, Ryan.
Yeah, first off, thank you for having me. It's always nice to come out and see some familiar faces within the investor group. I see a few on here that I've worked with and have spoken to in the past, so thank you. Yeah, I mean, the big topic right now on everybody's mind would be rates, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I think we all know where they're going. and where they have gone over the last little bit. So there's another meeting coming up on the 26th. They're expected to raise another 25 basis points. And there's a lot of talk within the industry that hopefully they're just going to let things lie from that point and go, okay, because we've had several raises. Now it's time to see what the effects of that will be.
Right.
So yes, they've been going up. I'm still very much on the variable rate train. I just feel as an investor, you need to have options. You need to have flexibility. And what the variable rate does, it allows you to either lock in if you get really scared, or get out of it if you want to change something to your mortgage.
Right.
The penalties, a lot of people don't know exactly how the penalties work. As soon as you sign up for a fixed rate, and this is what happens, and I'm fielding calls left, right, and center about rates going up. Should I lock in? Should I lock in? Should I lock in? And it's worst time to be doing that. Reason being, they're going to go up, they're going to come back down. When is that? I don't know. A year, 2 years, 3 years. But as soon as you lock in, you now will have an interest rate differential penalty with your fixed mortgage, which means you're going to have a huge penalty to change something.
Yeah.
And what usually happens, they come back down, and that person that locked in now wants to get out of it to get into a lower rate. So I'm still, suggesting to my clients the variable rate, the 30-year amortization, and stick it out. And hopefully things will change over the next year or two, maybe less. That's what we've seen. We've talked about this in our team meetings, and maybe I should go back a little bit to who Mortgageline is. We have offices throughout Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie. We have 60 agents that we meet with on a daily basis, and we talk about these types of things. And one of the conversations that came up the other day was, a lot of our agents are worried for their homeowners, right? And just with an increase of price, $100, $200, how does that affect them? And we've been doing this stress test for years now, which means we've already approved them based on 2% higher than what that interest rate is. So if they can't afford it, we wouldn't have been able to approve them in the first place.
Right.
So at the end of the day, people are going to be okay. They've got to remember how much interest they have saved over the last few years if you have been in the market. And it's gonna balance out, right? We talk to our clients about the fact that taking on a property is not a 1, 2, or 3 year investment. It's usually a 25 to 30. So we might see this now, and you might see it again in 10 years or 15 or 20. You can't come into this going, rates are high, I'm staying out. It's you want to own that property. So that's kind of what we're talking with our agents about, just recognizing, some of the concerns with people. And again, going back to that variable rate, that's where you need to be if you want to adjust it down the road and fix it possibly. Yeah. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. So there is a rate announcement on October 26th, as well as another one right after on December 7th. So those are 2 dates to keep in mind. Maybe write that down and just see if there's going to be any changes there. Going back to Alex's comment on migration, I love that because I've been doing this for 20 some years now, and I've seen a few different cycles. And the last cycle we saw with net migration, what happens is people move here, they rent, they get a job, they find out which area of town they like and they want to be in. And then usually within a year to 2 years after that is when they buy. So net migration is a very powerful tool for that. And I actually pulled up a few articles that I've been sharing with our team as well. And just some of the economic news coming out of Alberta, Calgary, and where we're at, and how I feel we're a little bit of a bubble. We weren't in the past, right? It was Toronto and Vancouver. I feel Alberta's in a little bit of a bubble now. And with some of the articles that I'm seeing out there, I'm just going to name off a few. These are from the Calgary Herald. They're from Global TV. WestJet aims to double capacity in Calgary through partnership with the provincial government. Global tech firm Emphasis launches hundreds of jobs. tech giant Infosys opens 1,000 new workers by 2024. You know, and Natasha, you mentioned about the advertising going on out east and what that's doing. There's another ad in Global saying go west right now. Population growth, migration, huge investment in the tech sector. I don't need to kind of go through all of that, but those types of things, when I see that, I feel, okay, we'll be all right here, and investing in Alberta as well.
Yeah.
Going back to last spring, I had clients going, well, I'm getting priced out of the market. I'm not going to buy now. Now that things have softened a little bit, interest rates have gone up, you know, people are actually coming out of the woodwork wanting to purchase. And that's what we're seeing in our office as a whole. We did $50 million last month in our office of mortgage sales. And I would have to say a big portion of that was coming in from BC and Ontario. Huge. So, you know, people are still seeing the opportunity. They're buying into it and they're wanting to get in. I have a whole family, 4 or 5 individuals out east that are all using me as a broker right now. They all want to move here.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy, and that is what's keeping us busy, and people are taking advantage of the opportunities. So, you know, I'm excited for where things are at with Alberta right now. Price of resources, everything's kind of coming into play at the same time. So I think we'll be all right here, and it's still a good time for investors to come in and kind of, you know, take advantage of what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
You know, we are also seeing a lot of commercial type investments, so multifamily units, and people are wondering, how does that work? So we've been, you know, kind of going through. It's a little bit of a different beast where they're not looking so much at you. They're looking at the commercial property. They're going, is this a viable business? Is it going to look after itself? And that's where the real test comes in. And just a you know, rule of thumb is they want to see that you have a net worth of at least 25% of what that property value is in liquid assets. That's a rule of thumb. They don't care as much about, you know, your job and what you're doing and everything else, your credit. They're looking at that 25%, and is this business a viable business? So those are the things that they're really looking for. We've been doing a few of those as well. What's really popular right now too, and I'm seeing a few of them come out, is people that aren't working anymore, but they're living off some investments and they want to buy real estate right now. We are using what's called a net worth program to get those people approved. And that's another unique program that allows people that, as long as they have some income coming in, it's a minimum of $12,000 a year, we can get them approved based on their net worth. And again, not so much looking at their job and lack of a job or anything like that. They're looking at their net worth. So those are 2 programs that we're seeing a lot of use with right now as well. That's all I've got for you, Natasha.
Hey, I have a couple
Just a scramble of info.
No, that's awesome. I have a couple like follow-up questions if you're okay with that. So on the commercial side, I do feel that a lot of people are looking at multifamily now, and partly kind of my thoughts is it makes sense now in the market with everything that's happened. 3, 4, 5 years ago, looking inner city and downtown was where we were steering people away from, right? And most of the density is in those areas. So now that we're seeing all this excitement in the marketplace, that's certainly from an economic standpoint making sense. But I do feel, first of all, the net worth requirement, I do speak to a lot of people and they're like, well, it doesn't matter what the price is, just do the numbers work. No, that is not the case. You do still need to qualify in terms of net worth. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm also seeing, Ryan, a lot of properties, particularly in Calgary, that are landlords who, have owned these things for 10, 20 years, let's say, and they just kind of had to survive from 2015 to 2019. And so they're underperforming. They are not as, certainly at their top performance level. They could use some work of, someone to come in and turn the units over. can you speak on kind of that two-step financing of what that would look like? Because you'd have your initial lender and then a second lender once you have everything brought up to A+ performance, that would be your long-term lender. But I feel like obviously that's a much different process than residential. So can you talk about that a little bit and kind of what the solutions are?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a few right now. So if you're wanting to purchase a building, multi-unit, and you want to do some renos to it and then refinance it, that's completely okay to do. But like you mentioned, it's a two-tier system process of getting that financing in place. So the first step is to acquire and have the renos set aside. 90% of the time, we're going to use a private lender for that. And private lender, I mean, it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It's done all the time. There are great private lenders out there that will allow you to make the purchase, as well as they will finance the renovations as well. And why that is key is because the big banks, they do not want you, and most likely will not allow you to refinance within the first year, especially with commercial. They want you for 5 years. So they're not going to let you onto that. And so you get the private lender in, do everything you need to do. You take into consideration your costs. And yes, there are a little bit of a higher fee as well as rates, but generally you're making minimum payments on that while the renos are being completed. And as soon as they're done,
interest only usually during that period,
yes,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And then as soon as you're done or close to, you want to start working on it right away. The one I'm working on right now, they want a CMHC refinance done on it. And CMHC takes a little bit longer, but there are some perks to using CMHC. One is a longer amortization period. One is a lesser down payment as well. We can go down to 85% loan to value. So those two things are attractive, especially in a rising rate environment. Get those in play, and people, immediately think, well, I don't want to pay for this for 40 years. Well, that's great. When things change and the markets are turning, then you can put more down on that property as you see fit, right? You're not stuck, you're not locked in. And that's what I like to see with investors, is that they have flexibility along the way. So there are a few options on the refinance side.
Good. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been telling people. It's similar to when, you're doing a BRRRR on a home, right? Like you're going to renovate it, do some sort of improvement to it and refinance at a later time. It's same thing in the multifamily space. And I think that is really where there's a lot of opportunity for Calgary, because there is a lot of these landlords that were just trying to keep their head above water over the last, 5-7 years. And so they have maybe deferred some capital expenditures, and things aren't, operating as well as they could. So I hear a lot, well, none of these numbers work. They don't, because they're underperforming, and someone needs to come in and turn that around. Now, what that means is when you purchase it, you're probably going to be putting more down for your down payment, because let's not forget the value is determined by the business, like Ryan was just saying. So the income coming in very much will determine the property value, which might mean you might have to put down a little more, but your two-step plan will allow you to then pull out once you have it stabilized and operating at its kind of peak capacity. So I think there's a huge opportunity for that. So thank you for that. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, one other thing that, that we found a lot of clients really took advantage of with us and using our services is that we're not just looking at that mortgage, right? We have a few different ways that we'll look at freeing up, whether it's $100 here or $200 here. Insurance is a big one. And so we actually have an insurance company as well. It's called InsureLine. We do home and auto and commercial. And we have actually found ways to save clients hundreds of dollars a month by blanketing their insurance and not having it separate. And so, we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at their mortgages. We'll take a look at their financial picture and go, where can we free up a few $100? Because that sometimes makes all the difference, whether you're cash flowing or not. So we're taking a look at things with several eyes and several hats, just to be sure that the clients are in the right spots with their programs financially.
Absolutely. I was actually just going to get you to talk about that next.
Oh,
Why I like the approach that Ryan gives. I see we got Ryan's contact here in the chat, so that's great. But let's kind of talk about that briefly. We have some new people in our group here tonight, and just, you know, even established investors. I always want them to get that tangible goal. Like, okay, Ryan, I want to get to, you know, this much income or this much whatever by X amount of time. And I like that you have this kind of reverse engineering approach and look at the whole picture. So what would it look like for a client coming to you? Like, what does that entail?
you know, the big thing that I do that a lot of people aren't doing, and this is because I do have a financial planning background, I want to know your goals, right? Why are you doing this? What's your end result? How much income do you need, right? A lot of times you come into this business, right? It is an investment, it's a business. Same thing as if you went and bought a restaurant tomorrow, they're going to ask you to do up a business plan. What are your goals? What are your demographics? You know, what are your pricing? Why are you doing this? And oftentimes we don't go through that same process. So that's number one, is I want to know what your goals are. I want to know where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years kind of thing. And from that, I can take a look at your whole picture and go, okay, here's what I think we need to do. And that includes, you know, taking a look at, you know, how much you have in RSPs and TFSAs and how much you're going to get for CPP when the time comes. If we take a look at all of those things and then bring in your real estate portfolio, or if you're just getting started, you know, we can see, okay, well, let's buy 3 homes now, get them under your belt, get them, you know, somebody paying down that mortgage for you as soon as possible. And, you know, here's what it's going to look like. And I'll run amortization schedules to show you where's that mortgage balance paid down to in 5, 10, 15 years. And then, you know, we can determine whether, you know, in 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever, if we need to sell 1 or 2 of them to pay off the other ones so that you've got free range on your properties. Or you might be in a position where you don't need to. In 25 years, you have 5 paid off and it works for your scenario. Everybody's different. And, you know, taking a look at the whole picture is huge.
Absolutely. Love it. And that does come with homework, guys. It takes a bit of time and there's a lot of compiling of information, but if you do it up front, it's so worth it. And it also even helps us on the sales side to go, okay, this is what we're trying to do. We know what your goals are and what strategy you want to implement is, and you know what we're trying to maximize in what period of time. So love it. I think that's about it. Of course, there's any questions, put them in the chat, but if not, we've got Ryan's information here that Drea provided in the chat as well. So feel free to copy that and reach out to Ryan for all your mortgage related questions for residential or commercial or insurance.
Yes, perfect. Awesome. Thank you,
Ryan. Okay, I was going to talk a little bit about, I was going to talk a little bit about just a few sectors of the market from an investor standpoint, just to kind of tie all this together. Then we'll do property management. I won't stick on this too long. The first one I want to talk about is inner city and suburbs. If you've been here before, you've heard me talk a lot about this, about the suburban market and the inner city market, and we are seeing this change happening right before our eyes with everything that we're talking about right now. Increased density, condo market is finally appreciating for the first time in a very long time, and people are having to seek affordability. Even though Calgary is affordable compared to other cities, our prices are still creeping up, and as prices go up and inflation and everything else and everything is becoming expensive, people are seeking affordability, which means they will seek density and condos, townhouses, and those types of properties. And so I'm not surprised that you know, the agents on our team are seeing more and more of that. A lot of Ontario people call and ask for townhouses. That's not usually a Calgary person asking for townhouses. Like most Calgarians are trying to get into single family real estate, but for townhouses, they're coming from a condominium to a townhouse. That's a huge difference, and at a significantly lower price. So I think we're going to see more of that. I feel very excited and confident about our downtown and inner city and all the economics that are surrounding that. So whether we're talking about land assemblies, developments, apartments, multifamily, short-term rentals, even in condominiums, there's a lot to talk about. Secondary suites, not going anywhere. Those are still, something we do a lot of. If you're interested in secondary suites in Calgary and don't know anything about it, please make sure you reach out to us, and we'd love to help you with that. We are experts when it comes to secondary suites, and the city of Calgary does have specific programs that you need to be aware of. And the rules are evolving as we go through things. So we're very much pro secondary suites here. And for residential, if you're seeking cash flow and just long-term tenants or even short-term tenants, I'm going to, at the end of tonight, just show a pro forma of a property similar to this one in this photo that we did, comparing it with long-term tenants and as a short-term rental, because we're actually seeing good demand for short-term rentals even in the suburbs. So I'm going to show that at the very end. But those can work as well. Or the nice thing is you can mix and match with secondary suites as the market changes. So I love that. Condos. Condos have been the hardest hit sector when it came to the recession. They were condos, period, anywhere, are the most volatile sector of the market because there's a lot of volume in one space, in one location, and they start adjusting and moving much quicker than you see in single family homes. So even in, large markets like Toronto, the rental market or the sales market, you will see condos start adjusting very quickly, and they're a lot more volatile when you start studying kind of what has happened over decades. So Calgary is no different. In the recession, they were definitely the hardest hit and took the longest to recover. And we are just seeing now kind of that shift in market where we're seeing positive appreciation in condos for the first time in a very long time this year, which is really, really good. And that will continue as people are seeking affordability. That's only going to continue. So I think we have turned that corner, which is really exciting. And then lastly is multifamily. I do have a commercial license for those that are interested in multifamily. And this is a sector that I'm really excited about and kind of been waiting the last many years for as an investor and as a realtor to feel confident as an investor and to be advising this as a strategy for our investors as well. So there's multifamily opportunities in terms of what we just spoke about with Ryan, buildings with tired landlords that have just been trying to, make do over the last 5-7 years and have just been keeping their head above water. But there's an opportunity there to come in and improve these buildings, improve the rents, and improve the property value. So the other thing about Calgary is you can raise your rents once per year, whatever the market will bear. This is absolutely critical when it comes to multifamily because your property value is determined by the income. So I wouldn't even I would, if not being able to adjust to the market or as you have improved the property like this in such a easy way within a course of 1 year, that alone is a huge reason to look at Alberta for multifamily. With the two-step financing plan, you can make a massive difference and a massive improvement in property value just by doing a few renos, adding laundry, even things like making the tenants pay their own electricity. That alone will increase the value of the property, just managing things appropriately. So very excited about multifamily for those that are interested. And there's turnkey new construction multifamily out there now. If you don't want to do work either, we have a few leads of builders on those, everything from 6 doors upwards to 20-30 doors. I know of brand new multifamily projects as well that I would be happy to show anyone who's interested in that. So that's kind of my tips on the strategy. I know it's quick, but just being mindful of everyone's time, we are now going to bring up Una Allen, who's going to talk about the rental market. And I'm going to unpin Ryan. Una. Okay, Una, you're already pinned. Okay, so Una Allen is our full-time property manager here at Phipps Real Estate Group. She does an incredible job taking care of all of her investors because obviously buying a property is just one piece of it. Making sure that it makes money and is operating at peak performance is very, very critical. So Una is going to talk to us tonight about the rental market. So hi, Una.
Hi, thank you for having me, guys. Are we, can you hear me well?
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. Okay, good to go. So we've experienced some changes in the rental market, just like we have, slight changes in the sales market. They're still very positive, but there is a large increase in inventory because it is end of the summer and the builders are coming out with all of their product at the end of the summer, mostly after that building season. And so we are up against not only, new builds on these single family and these duplexes, let's say, but also, we're up against new buildings that are coming out with, 120 units, 50 units. So there's a lot of that as well. And so there is an increase in our inventory all of a sudden, and also there's a decrease in demand. Decrease in demand because depending on which product, 3 bedrooms, family units, there's a decrease in demand because by September, we reached some sort of a peak in the season for these families to move in right before the schools. So to enter into their school zones, and then they're sort of settled and they're not really moving around much anymore. And then, I guess,
Well, and Una, that happens every year. Like we have that
Yeah.
seasonality, which is why the time of
Absolutely.
year is so important, depending on what type of strategy you implement. So that's a really good point, that if you have a family, you kind of want to be settled by the end of summer. So we can't be surprised come October that there's not a lot of families moving. And I feel like every year we feel that. So that's kind of, you can expect that, right?
Exactly. And so with the family product, we come to some sort of a peak in pricing in that August and September. And
Yeah.
then as soon as we hit October, we see a decrease in demand. And with that, the best strategy is with such a large inventory of product that you're up against is to really act as fast as possible on offering something that's going to make you stick out. So lots of times it's going to be pricing, aggressive strategies with aggressive incentives, whether it's halving your security deposit or maybe a signing bonus incentive.
Parking.
Parking. Yeah,
Parking.
we've done that as well, offering free parking for a number of months, like 6 months. We've done that as well lately. Yeah, absolutely. And these are the things that are making us look different on the market right now. And it really is working, and it's attracting people for sure. And we're seeing that we're quickly filling these units with using these incentives. We just have to be real. You have to be fast before all the other people catch on, all the other companies. So you gotta act fast.
That's a good point too. Like, who was I speaking to last week? A friend of ours, and he's looking for a place to rent. And like, speed is important. If you're self-managing, or if you have a property manager, I would ask them what their turnaround time is. If it's like, it has to be within a reasonable amount of time, like a day. Like it can't take days and days for people to get back to you. Otherwise they move on. So speed is, I think, something that, well, you've done an excellent job with in terms of processing people. And then once you have applications as well as applications, right?
Yeah, speed is always a factor in any sort of market, especially with all this inventory that you're up against. So and then of course you kind of have to keep feeling back on, like, are we still good here? Like, if you're not hearing back, like, am I supposed to throw another carrot at this? Like, where are we at? So not to, like, have to handle the deal, not to lose it. And so because that will happen. Anyways, we are entering into a slower market. And so there are some tips that I thought would be really smart to share with everybody, kind of how to make yourself stick out. Besides just the incentives, I think it's really important to basically, probably, if you have an older home, and maybe clean it out on the outside, maybe do an exterior wash, maybe bring those windows to shine again. Do something that when you do attract people to an open house, have that feel of like, oh, this is a good house. Like, this is where I want to live, because you will be up against competition. So everything that you can do to kind of be that house for them. Maybe stage photos to attract people to your listing as well, and make you different against an identical, many different, but many of the same product out there that you're up against. do something like that maybe. And we've found success with that staging photos is attracting a lot of people to our open houses or our showings, or maybe, you know, going into a slower market. If you do know that, if you do have an opportunity to advertise earlier, a couple of months earlier would be great as well, so that you have time to find a good application when the applications slow down. Give yourself more time if you do have that opportunity. That's a really good tip. Kind of just stretch that if you can. Try not to wait till the last month. Try not to wait even 2 months. If you can buy that, if you can do something, you know, stretch that time, it'll be great. Right now, I actually am closing a deal on something happening in January, just because we know that there's some inventory coming in, and you know, we're in the talks of that. So another thing, I made a few notes here. Yeah, another great thing is to get yourself out of this winter market. So for example, if you are getting possession of a brand new property and taking opportunity of great shopping opportunities in this winter market for investors, you know, maybe when you are making that first lease, perhaps sign for a longer lease, maybe a 15 to an 18-month lease, just to get you out of that winter market so that you enter into a spring market and a higher in demand market. I think that would be a really helpful tip. But also, when you're offering all of these incentives and a lower rent, try and balance this out. When you're putting a longer lease, don't forget that you're like then signing a smaller rent and all these other incentives to that longer lease. So if you can balance those two things out kind of on a mathematical equation, you know, so that it all makes sense, would be my best advice.
You don't want to be vacant every December or turning over every December or January, right? So, and that's probably better for the tenants anyways. So you can do incentives for a shorter period of time, reduce security deposits as well. You know, at least doesn't change your rental income. Make sure you're screening properly. this is what I was going to ask you. I actually had a few people in the last week ask me this directly, and I know you have a solution for this. Given that we're seeing a lot of refugee status immigrants, people coming that are either brand new or they're here as refugees. I know we have worked with a few tenants in this case before, and there is a few things that you advise if you want to go down this road. I don't think a lot of people know about the options as a possible guarantor or what you would recommend, but can you speak on that?
There's definitely guarantors. What I did find is that it's much harder, actually. A lot of Canadians open they opened their arms, they welcomed a lot of these refugees, and I think that was a lot already, and it's great. And it's probably all they needed, because a lot of them came very well educated and very well prepared with good English skills. And but I'm finding that it's very hard for them to have guarantors. I'm finding that it is an option, but it's actually, I've never yet had a guarantor on a refugee application yet. I've tried every single time, and it seems that that's kind of where the help becomes very hard to sort of go as far as that. And so that is the experience that we've had. But what I do find is that a lot of these people do come financially stable. They do whatever. A lot of them come with prepared to pay 3 months or 6 months of rent up front.
That's true.
And thankfully, what Canadians could do and did was they offered jobs, and they're offering employment letters and permanent positions right away, and things to aid the entire process in the application. So maybe it's not a full 3 months or 6 months. If that's the case, that it's really not possible. But these people are coming very well put together, and they're ready to take on the world, that's for sure. So we're just welcoming another group of,
and they're finding work. They're finding work quickly. So just kind of wanted to mention that. And the idea
Yes.
of a guarantor, I mean, that can apply even to students, right? Like really anyone who doesn't have the track record yet, you can ask for that. If you like the tenant or like the application, but there's just that missing piece, especially if it's a little bit slower, that could be something you could consider as well. And then for the guarantor, right, you would basically screen them just as if you would the tenant, right? You would ask all the same questions and all the same things.
Their pay slips get checked, their employment gets checked, their credits get checked. Yeah, absolutely, every part. So we pull title to see if they do own the property. Let's say if they're parents and they actually do own their house. We kind of even, we go as far as,
Una's
kind
the
of a
first
mortgage
property
payment do you
manager.
have? Like mhm.
You're the first.
We
property
make sure
manager
that the guarantor, so, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, you're the first property manager when we started talking property management that pulls title that I'm aware of.
You know what?
And it
Last
makes
week,
sense.
last week we had an application where both landlords on the one application were fake.
Wow. And it's $10 to pull title, everyone. You can pull title on any property. It's not, you don't have to be a realtor. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can go to the Spin to government website and type in an address and pull title for $10. So that's a way just to verify that they are who they say they are, kind of thing. Also, if you're ever doing a private transaction, make sure you pull title to make sure who you're dealing with actually owns the property. Alex said, yeah, no, there really hasn't been a lot of programs for them in terms of like, getting started in that initial 6,000, which is nothing. So if they have other, family here or something, then that could be an option. But okay. Thank you for that. Is there any other questions Jen had asked about the rental market, about like average rents for 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. It is difficult to just give average rents because there is a wide variation between like a 3-bedroom bungalow and a 3-bedroom 2-story.
Yeah.
To talk about, I don't know if you want to try to answer that, but it's a little hard to give that.
Yeah, I'd really have to sit down to kind of put together some average numbers, like to really give you some average. But what we've noticed in our, with let's say, our 1-bed, like let's talk brand new product, maybe like to put it like to
1-bedroom suite,
maybe apples and apples. So 1-bedroom brand new product. We've had a price increase since the spring of about 16%, 15-16%, probably going from about $950 to about $1,100, plus utilities on top, plus pet fees and stuff. So that's just the base rent that we've seen an increase in on the 1-bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths would a brand new product right now. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 is probably a 2-story. That is going now for about $1,800 plus utilities, plus garage extra. And at the peak of August and September, we could have even pushed that to $2,000, but we can't. It's up against too much inventory now, and we can't do that. 2 bedrooms, I would say that depending on like brand new product. What did I have recently? Well, I'm going to say 1,700.
Yeah. So overall, even though it's, softer a bit every winter as we approach, rents are up overall year over year for sure, the last few years in a row. And with how much migration and people moving to Alberta, I would expect that to continue. There's a question about short-term rentals from Jason. Hey, Jason. I did an interview recently with Sarah Kirby. She is a short-term rental manager. We do not manage short-term rentals in-house. I maybe can share that in here, or if someone can get the link. She is our best resource, but in terms of your question about suburbs versus downtown, here's what I will say. For her, she says location does not matter as much as we would tend to think it does for short-term rentals. It comes down to how well it's managed and marketing and creating that unique experience in the property, not just throwing a bunch of IKEA furniture in the same unit as the other 50 Airbnbs. So it can work anywhere. I'm actually going to show a property here that we have for sale that I had her run the numbers on in terms of turning it into a short-term rental. It's a suited property in Walden, and she has one in her rental pool right now. And I was shocked when she sent me the actual numbers and the report that how this property is operating right now. And I applied those to the property we have. The cash flow was astounding, and that was in Walden. So location doesn't matter as much. For downtown though, if you want condos, again, in talking to her, I'm always hesitant to approach condos as short-term rentals because the rules can change, of course, and it hit you free to buy something, and then next year you can't do what you want to do with it. But she gave us a list of a half a dozen buildings that she feels extremely confident in that could do short-term rentals, are doing short-term rentals in them now. She manages them now, and there's many in the building. So I would just be very cautious with short-term rentals and condos. If you want to talk further on that, let us know. But they can work too. The nice thing about condos is, of course, you can get in under 300,000 for a one-bedroom condo and operate as Airbnb, and it will cash flow. And the other thing Sarah offered us for clients that work with our group is a reduced property management fee. Usually it's 25% for short-term rental management. And for all of the Phipps Real Estate Group clients, she is offering 20%, that is a massive savings. So if you want to chat Airbnb, short-term rentals, again, let's schedule a discovery call and we can go into that. But I think that was all the questions here for Una. Oh, thanks, Andrea, for sharing that. So yeah, short-term rentals, go watch that video. I was like, Sarah threw so many great tips in there. I really enjoyed chatting with her about it, and I learned a ton as well. So thanks so much, Una. That was very informative. And again, if you have a rental property, you want Una to take a look at it, give you some ideas of what it could rent for, if it's being managed properly or not, and everything we can do to provide you assistance there. We do leasing as well as full property management. So we can take care of everything from start to finish for all of that for you.
I'm going to post my Calendly link in the chat, and then if anybody would like to book.
Awesome. Thanks, Una. Again, our contact information, our YouTube channel is Calgary Real Estate Investing. All of our interviews that I do, all of these sessions do get posted up into the Calgary Real Estate Investing group as well. And so you can watch them later on. And then if you do want to book or schedule a consult with us, please reach out on our website, or there's my email there as well.